Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't see Pastor Felton here. Anyone here from the United Methodist Church? No. Okay. So just everybody stand and please join us then in a moment of silence. Okay. Thank you very much. Seated. And we have a roll call, please.
Mayor Kavanaugh,
Here.
Vice Mayor DePorter,
Here.
Councilmember Magazine,
Here.
Councilmember Yates,
Present.
Councilmember Brown,
Here.
Councilmember Tolis,
Here.
Councilmember Leger.
All right, thank you. We'll go on to our reports. First, I'm going to go to Councilman Tolis, who's going to give us a report on the school coalition.
Yeah, the Fountain Hills Coalition meeting was this morning at the Learning Center at the high school. Excellent meeting, attended by the superintendent, many people from Maricopa County Sheriff's Department, and they shared all of the initiatives that they are moving forward with to educate the kids about abstinence and making sure to stay away from drugs and alcohol. They had some great programs for their art project and also an essay project. I will be inviting 3 of the winners of their essay contest to our next town council meeting to be recognized. So they're doing a lot of great things to help our school district and the community to encourage kids to stay away from drugs and alcohol. So great program, and I'm proud to be part of it and representing the town.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, now we'll go to my EDC report. Just very short today. As we all can see, building is really taking off at a fast pace here in town. We had a ribbon cutting and official opening of both Adero Canyon and the Overlook at Fire Rock. Sales so far, I'm told, are doing quite well. I attended the first East Valley Chamber of Commerce Mayor's Roundtable along with CEO of our chamber, Scott Soldat Valenzuela. We had some great discussion about economic development, business retention, and strengthening the market in the valley to help all of us. And I look forward to semi-annual meetings now we decided we were going to have with that group. And then we will go on to, you ready? Recognition of head coach Allison Mayberry and the Fountain Hills High School women's soccer team state champions. Okay. Have a mic? Okay, I'm going to come down there and then introduce you. Okay, Coach.
Thanks for having us tonight. This is the first time I've had to speak up here, so I wasn't prepared. We have Georgia, Bailey, Sophia, Madison, our foreign exchange student, Alyssa, Hope, Danica, Coley, Erica, Courtney, Allison, and Natalie here tonight.
So this is your second championship.
This is our third, but we did win back-to-back this year.
All right.
Nice job.
Well, just like was Mr. Bergoglio right there, right? And just like we are so proud of all of our sports teams, this is just amazing, and Fountain Hills takes great pride in our Falcons. And congratulations. If you could all make like 2 lines, Bob's going to take a picture, okay? Great. Okay, we'll give them a minute to file out. Thank you again for coming.
Mayor,
Sure.
it should be noted
Say
that we didn't have time to invite the boys' basketball program here that also just won the state championship
Right.
last Saturday night. So we look forward to having them here, too. So
Absolutely.
congratulations.
All right, we'll go on to now our exciting quarterly budget report by Finance Director for fiscal year 2016-17 for the quarter ending December 31st, 2016. It's hard to follow that, huh, Craig?
Not at all.
We have a call to public?
Mayor and council members, this is my
Next.
quarterly update. I'm sure you're all excited and thrilled to hear how well the town is doing. This presentation has been in your packet. Also included in your packet was a printed quarterly report that gives you as much or more detail if you're so inclined. And then in addition, something that is posted on the town's website, we also post a quarterly sales tax report that just breaks down the major categories of sales tax. So if you're interested in that and you can't find your larger, more interesting report, that would be available to you. Once again, here is all of our funds revenue totaling for the 6 months ending December 31st, $10.7 million. Just a reminder again that when I talk about operating funds, it really is 4 different funds: the general fund, public art, internal service, and equipment replacement. Operating revenues for just the general fund. As we all know, most of our revenue is sales tax and state shared revenue. That is at 85% of the total revenues. Local sales tax is 50%, and the total operating revenues are 96% of the budget, so not quite where we had projected, but close. This is the breakdown of the major categories. Local sales tax are at 96% of the budget, a little bit behind. State shared revenues at the same percent. And those are our major categories. State shared revenues are 35% of the total operating budget. And I think you know the state income tax is coming from the prior 2 years. And VLT, even though it's a state shared revenue, is recorded in the highway users fund, not in our general operating fund. Local sales tax is 50% of the total operating revenue, and we are 1% over the prior year, but only 93% of our expected total year to date. Wholesale retail is doing well. It's a little bit higher than last year, and it is the largest component of our sales tax. Restaurant and bars, healthy increase over the prior year, but still not quite up to budget. Transportation, telecom, a decrease from the prior year. And local sales tax is down 25% from a year ago. The majority of that is due to the fact that last year we had Morningstar, we had Park Place, and this year those revenues are not coming in until the construction is going to be finished. Our expenditures, a little bit hard to see, $7.2 million, and about a $400,000 increase over the prior year, or 6%. Here's how our HURF fund is doing. 2 years ago, we started contributing the sales tax that had been dedicated to the repayment of the Mountain Preserve to the HURF fund. So that is what the top blue, the light blue color on the last 2 years' budget is. Expenditures, $2.3 million. Most of it, obviously, as you can see from our pavement management program that was undertaken earlier this year. These are restricted funds. Debt service is high just because we're collecting sales tax and we haven't made our principal payment, which won't be due until July 1st. And then our fund balances, a little over $6 million in the general fund and a little over $8.5 million in our capital projects fund. The other funds are pretty much restricted and not available for use other than what the funds prescribe. So revenues are 7.5% under, but still higher than last year. Same thing with expenditures, under budget, but higher than last year. Fund balance looks to be fine, and indicators seem to remain stable. Now we go into our future glance. This is revenues and expenditures by year based on our 2016-17 budget. I did not update this for our 17-18 budget. We're still making some adjustments, still trying to get all the costs in. So probably for our next quarterly update, I'll use our 17-18 projection instead of our 16-17. Here's how we're trending for operating revenues. And here's how we're doing for operating expenditures. If you can see, revenues are going up, but expenditures are going up more. You need to pay attention to the scale to see the relative relationship. This is showing how departments are spending money. And as we know, our public safety, fire, and law enforcement are the biggest components of our operating budgets. And then this is a simple graph showing our revenues and our expenditures for the operating. And you can see revenues are going up, but the expenditures are going up more. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions? Councilman Yates?
Thank you, and once again, tremendous job. Although we're above our projected revenues from year over year, we're still below our budget. So what does that equate to as far as completing the year? Are we going to fall short on some of our obligations, or did we budget out for some positive cash flows by the end of the year?
I believe for the sales tax portion, we're going to be significantly above my estimate for sales tax.
Okay.
So I think we're going to really catch up in January, February, March.
Excellent. Yeah, this season.
So overall, I believe we're going to be fine for the current year.
And Madam Mayor, as a follow-up, you mentioned we added a plus 400,000 in expenditures
Yes.
this year. Could you give more context to that? Because I know the way we do our accounting, we have capital improvement budgets, things of that nature. What accounts for that $400,000 additional expenditure?
The majority of it is nowhere. It's a little bit higher than all of them, and it's primarily due to salaries, in my opinion. I don't see anything that jumps out at me. We added a new category this year called general government, which town manager was trying to accumulate all of those that are associated with the town as a whole, as opposed to having some in administration, some in community services. So that's $200,000 of the $400,000 increase, and the remainder is due to the increases in salary.
And to put that in perspective, I'm sorry, Mayor, it's not like we're paying an exorbitant amount of additional services or things of that nature.
We are not. If you notice, they're higher, but they're still 7.5% under our budget year to date.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you, Craig.
Any other questions for Craig?
I just thought this is a very similar, if not the same report we had at our retreat, and we had a comment in regards to the construction sales tax revenues, that there were some incoming revenues on that were not on the original report. Can you comment on that now?
The revenues, we're not anticipating to be collected in the current fiscal year. And so the graph that showed the 25% decrease, I expect will probably be close to that at year end, just because the construction was accounted for earlier, and the new construction that's coming online isn't going to be done soon enough for us to recognize this fiscal year.
But there was a pretty substantial number at our retreat that we had talked about in regards to this downtown project that we were still waiting for that hadn't been accounted for. Is that correct?
The only portion that hasn't been accounted for is the development fees, and they total, I think, $300,000.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Councilman Magazine?
I can only imagine how difficult it is for the public to absorb all this as you flip through these very quickly. In fact, I have trouble. To put in some context, I'm looking at revenue/expenditures by year, general fund only, and it shows that expenditures are going up at a faster clip than income, correct?
Yes.
And so if you extend it out to 2020, 21, as you've done in this slide, what does that shortfall equate to?
Based on our projections for the 16-17 year, which is the one we're in now, our cumulative shortfall through the 5-year period was about $5.5 to $6 million.
Maybe I'm not really understanding this. I thought at the retreat, you said it was more like it had gone down from 5.9 to like 3.6.
Depends on what year you're looking at. If you're looking at the current year, 16-17, it was 5.9. If you're looking at 17-18, which includes taking benefit for what we've received so far this year, then yes, the amount does decrease down to 3.9.
And what is it through 2021, 5 years?
That would be the 3.9.
That's 3.9.
Yes.
So to make it as clear as I can, expenditures are going up, income is static or going up slightly. Through 5 years, we're running a 3.6, you say 6 or 9? $3.6 million shortfall through 5 years, correct?
Correct.
And there's no way to assume that expenditures won't continue to go up because of inflation and all kinds of things. And income, we'll have some development income and so on, but by and large, that's not going up in equal proportion to the increase in expenditures.
That is correct. And the revenue income that you reference is typically one-time revenue, not continuing revenue. So we may get a bump in a year or two when some construction gets finished, but that is one-time revenue.
So I assume that when you started out by saying, I know you'll be thrilled to hear how well the town is doing, you were being facetious.
Not really. If you're looking at the current year by itself, we're doing what we projected in our budget. If you take the long-range view, we still have that elephant in the room that our expenditures are exceeding our revenues.
I think it was Harry Truman that said about economists on the one hand, but on the other hand, right? Thank you.
Councilman Toles?
I thank you, Mayor. I just would like some clarification, please. At our retreat, I'm looking at the general fund projections that you had provided, and here I just heard $3.4 million shortfall in 2021. Is that
Cumulative over the 5-year period.
okay? So on a yearly basis, it's looking at we're about $5,408,000 of a shortfall in 18-19, 19 and 20, 837, and then 2021, 1.4. With the increase that you just showed in the sales tax revenues that were substantial, do you feel that that may carry over year as we continue to add density? What is your projections on that, and have they been built into your model already?
When I developed the budget for 16-17 for sales tax, based on the fact that the Department of Revenue was implementing the TPT simplification, they also changed their reporting format. I could only go back to January of 2015 for comparable numbers. So last year when I presented it, I really only had 6 or 7 months worth of data. I did not do a good job estimating current year, 16-17 sales tax. Now I have another year. I found a different mathematical formula to use, and I'm more comfortable that my projections for 17-18 are in line with reality. Based on that, I expect that the future years are going to be slightly higher than 17-18, but not as dramatic, not nearly as dramatic as the current year. The current year, we may be $1 million more in local sales tax than my budget projected.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, thank you, if I may.
Councilman Lejay?
Along the lines of what Councilman Magazine was saying, and I think it's really important, we talked about this at our retreat, we get kind of hung up on our operational fund, and we're saying, well, we're looking at a $3 million deficit, a $5 million deficit. This is not the whole picture. Where we're really lagging is in keeping up with our infrastructure and our pavement management, and on and on and on and on. And I'm hoping that next time we meet to talk about revenue solutions, we have a holistic picture of what our projected expenses are. This is just the day-to-day operations of the town. It has nothing to do with the $7 million or $5 million annually we need to keep up with our pavement management. So I'm looking forward to that holistic graph, if you may. Thank you.
You are absolutely correct.
And
This
by
is
the-
only just the operating funds.
And regardless of what our state of the economy is, we've finally gotten back to, if you may, our pre-recession results. So we have had some incremental improvements through our tourism and our economic development, but we haven't gone beyond where we were, and I think that's an important note. And on the other side of this, thank you. You and your staff do a tremendous job, and we're looking forward to many more graphs.
Thank you. I'll try my best.
Any other questions for Craig? Okay, Grady?
Yes, and if I could just dovetail on what Councilmember Lejay said. In April, we will be coming back to council on a 10-year budget that really looks at everything, the full freight of what we have been deferring over the years. So you'll see really if we were to have a budget based on current expenditures plus those expenditures that we should be putting money aside for pavement management, facilities replacement, then you'll see a different number. And the other thing I just want to dovetail too on is that the revenue, for instance, with state shared revenue, as the issue is we're basically receiving the same number of dollars that we did back in 2007. So while it looks like our expenditures are growing at a faster clip than the revenues, the real issue is the revenues just aren't keeping up, and that's going to be the challenge. And that's why we're going to try to meet in April to talk about the revenue solutions possibly. The other thing I just wanted to bring to the council's attention and also to the audience is that our town just received notification that the Government Finance Officers Association, this is the organization that all municipal governments belong to, just issued the town the award for outstanding achievement in popular annual financial reporting for its annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th last year. This is this report is called popular not because of popularity, but it's called popular because it's a small condensed version of our 800 to 1,000 page document. It's a 14-page recap of the larger comprehensive annual financial report. So I just want to let you know that's great news, and we were going to wait until we actually received the award, but I thought this would be an appropriate time to recognize Craig Rudolphi, our finance director, and his staff that do a great job, particularly this. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Joe Mormon, who's a volunteer who previously worked for the town and actually really spent a lot of the time on this. So
Yes.
thank you very much.
Okay. All right, thanks, Craig. Okay, go on, call to the public.
Mayor Michael Pergulio.
Ah. Okay.
Bragging rights. Yes, Mayor Kavanaugh, council members, thanks for having me. Yes, I'm here to talk about, on the heels of our presentation, which we're very grateful for. I just came from practice, so that's why I'm like I am. But
You look official.
I spend a lot of time at the fields and parks. So, Anyway, I want to talk about recognition. One of our goals for our school system is to recognize our successes and to market those. And we believe, obviously, successful schools are a good thing for drawing more and more people to town. I mean, I'm proud to say even this year, I have 2 kids from Cave Creek that live up on the Rio Verde area up there that are, instead of going to Cave Creek schools, are coming to play baseball here. So, those types of things. So our programs do draw people from other places. And so one of the things I'd like to talk about is, recognizing our student athletes. And if anyone knows, I don't know, we do have a couple of state championship signs that are publicly on display right now on Palisades. They're about this big.
This small.
Okay, and they haven't been updated since 2004. And so we're looking to propose something like that. Didn't come up.
It looks just like ours.
Them to the rescue.
Did you see it on your screen?
No.
We have dial-up.
Mike is coming.
Well, if it,
He can fix it.
Sounds the tech-savvy guy.
There you go.
so we are celebrating ourselves as the campus of champions, and right now I'm talking particularly about our sports teams. But in the last, we have 18 overall state champions in our school's history, and in the last 4 years we've had 8. So even though our school size has declined, our level of competition has gone up. And so what we'd like to do is as people enter town, where you have the clubs and organization signs and you have the sister city signs, we'd like to propose an idea of putting something like this up, and so people enter on Palisades or on Saguaro or Fountain Hills Boulevard that they know that they're coming to a school system that's got it going on. And so that's what we're looking at. In terms of, it's good to come on the heels of the girls' team, but it's bad to come on the heels of the budget. So that's a whole different issue. But as we speak, our board, our Booster Club board is actually meeting to talk about ways to fundraise to help, private funds to help fund things like this. We also, if you've been in our gymnasium, we have a Hall of Champions. And it's quite impressive. And we have 4x8 pictures of all our state championship teams in the hall. And any school that comes, the first thing the kids and the parents do is look up. Mm-hmm. And I invite everyone to check that out sometime because it's really quite impressive. So we would just like to expand this to the actual roadways in our town. And so that's something that I don't know what the next step would be, if it would ever be to become on a council agenda or something like that to see, where that would be in terms of,
Great, you can tell
that's
us
not
that.
my jurisdiction. I'm just here to share the good news.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be pleased to hear, not only did we discuss this at the joint council and governing body meeting, but, and there was enthusiasm from both parties, but my staff has also been trying to identify key locations for such signs as well. And in addition to the sports teams, which we're very proud of, they're doing a great job. We'll also have some signs that will recognize the academics of the district as well.
Fantastic.
But I think we're all on the same page here, and I'm very happy to let you know that we will be having something coming soon to the council that will recommend where these will go and how the signs will appear. I really like your design here, so
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you very much. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Go Falcons.
Okay, we're up to our consent agenda. We have 6. Can I get a motion to accept as written?
Move approval.
Mayor, second?
Okay. I need a roll call on that one.
Mayor Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Vice Mayor DePorter,
Aye.
Councilmember Brown,
Aye.
Councilmember Yates.
Aye.
Councilmember Toles.
Aye.
Councilmember Magazine. Councilmember Leger. Mayor 7-0.
All right. Regular agenda, first item, discussion with possible direction to staff regarding the technology gate. This item was added to the agenda at the request of Councilmember Toles, Yates, and Kavanaugh. Okay. Would either of the councilmen want to speak first on it?
Art, go ahead, buddy.
Art?
Mayor, I believe there's speakers on this issue, and before I address the council and my comments, I'd like to hear from the public.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
we just provided some background information, and I'd be happy to go through it. It just provides
Okay.
the factual information about the situation.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'll do it myself. So providing a little bit of background on this matter, in 1998, the town council approved a general plan amendment for the Four Peaks Plaza area. That is what we commonly call the Target Shopping Center. The general plan amendment was opposed by the area residents who took out a referendum in opposition. The amendment was then put to a vote of the citizens in town and was approved, which then, following that, the area was rezoned. Well, we're having some technology issues. Thank you, Amberly. The gate across Technology Drive was a stipulation. It was stipulation number 25, attached to the Shea Retail Center preliminary plat. The town council approved the preliminary plat on October 19th, 2000, subject to 29 stipulations. Residents south and west of the Four Peaks Plaza expressed concern with commercial traffic accessing their neighborhood roads. And the gate was one of three related stipulations. The first stipulation was abandon Cosmic Drive. The next one was abandon Laser Drive between Technology Drive and Saguaro Boulevard. And the third was install emergency access gate across Technology Drive near its intersection with Saguaro Boulevard. This is a view of the gate. I believe this is from Saguaro that you see. And then, I'm sorry, now we got it working. Thanks, Amberly, we really appreciate it. And then this is the view of the gate up close, so you can see what the gate looks like. And then this is the intersection. And then this is an aerial photograph that shows generally the saguaro, which is, let's see, right here. The Target Shopping Center is here. And let me see, I'm having a hard time reading the street names. Is this Technology right here?
Yes.
So this is Technology Drive right here where the gate is. And then I apologize, I do not have a map. Councilmember Leger indicated that it would have been very helpful to have a map from previously that would have shown the abandonment of those two streets I mentioned previously. And then we'll go ahead and show you more of a broader aerial photograph of the area that shows the streets and the configuration. And then finally, the proposed action tonight that the council members requested was consideration of removing the gate at Technology Drive and installing signs prohibiting commercial vehicles. And with that, I'll turn it over to the mayor and you can continue.
Okay. So let's start with our speaker cards.
Mayor, we have 25 speaker cards. They do not wish to speak. They want you to know that they are against opening the gate. We have 8 speaker cards. I'll read 2 names at a time. That way you know who you follow. Michael Archambault, followed by Christopher Young.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor DePorter, I assume you're still there, and Council. My name is Mike Archambault. I've been a resident of Fountain Hills since 1972 and served on the council from 2002 to 2010. Now, I have a business on Laser Drive, and I want to express emphatically that gate makes no difference to me. I don't care whether you guys open it or close it. Technology was advanced to Shea Boulevard, and it was widened and designed to be a heavy truck traffic route, which is what my business needed. So it was a little inconvenience when they first put the gate in. I didn't like the fact that they closed Laser Drive because that was the way that my truck routes came in. The citizens' concerns was legitimate because we knew that once they turned on Saguaro Boulevard, there was no more Laser Drive. They were going to go down in Technology and turn in. 17 years later, I can tell you, it doesn't amount to a hill of beans. Maybe it's a little bit inconvenient for some of the businesses back there. The only one I can really think of is U-Haul. Somebody trying to deliver a U-Haul back to U-Haul and they GPS it and see that there. But it doesn't impact their sales or revenues. My sales revenues during those years when the gate wasn't there and the years the gate was there actually increased. So it had no impact whatsoever on my sales. So to be told that it's business unfriendly is disingenuous. We have to look back at the history and why the gate's there. And it was a concern of the citizens. So it was a citizen-driven initiative, and that got put on that plat because the citizens wanted it. Therefore, it's misguided when you bring businesses into this. What you wind up doing is convoluting the issue. Concerns have been expressed about traffic behind the Four Peaks Center. Is this not their issue? It's private property. We would be setting a precedence if we tried to explain that by opening the gate, we'll solve that issue. People are like ants. You know, they're going to go whatever route they've been going forever. You open the gates, somebody coming down Saguaro Boulevard crosses Shea, and they want to go through that part, Four Peaks Center, they're not going to go all the way down Technology to go through that area. We must remember, and this is just me speaking as a former council member, that we were elected by the citizens and not by the businesses, and therefore, we must not negate our duties. Our duties are to provide safety and welfare to our citizens, and sure, businesses play into that. We want to bring businesses here that citizens want to patronize, but our foremost duty is to the citizens that elect us. So you should go to the citizens to see if they want the gate open. It's that simple. It gets convoluted when you hear it's business unfriendly, when you hear businesses are going out of business because of the gate. They're not. So we lament all the time that citizens don't trust their government. This is a classic example of why you don't earn their trust. Please don't ignore the promises made just because time has passed by. Don't get hijacked. Thank you.
All right, well, we just, you don't have to clap, okay? We'd rather you didn't. We have a request from Councilman Tolis that the names of the people who said they didn't want to speak but they were against it be read into the record.
Mayor, we also had two additional, not their addresses,
No, if they came up, don't they say their address when they say?
not their house numbers. They could
Just
say
where
where
they
they
live.
live.
Just that they live here.
Mayor, if I may address the town attorney, I've been on the council for 10 years. I see this as highly unusual. Is there a procedural issue regarding this or not? Naming the resident by card.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Leger, typically all the residents, when they come to the microphone, give their name and their town of residence or city of residence, but not the specific address. We dropped the specific address quite a few years ago just so that people weren't giving the information they didn't want to give. But generally, they identify their name for the record for Bev and whenever they come to the podium.
Okay.
So we have a little revision here.
Okay.
We had two more cards come in, so we have 25 non-speaker cards, but they're against opening the gate. And I have 3 cards that have listed only phone numbers, but they say they're residents of Mirage Cove. So I can't identify them, only their phone numbers are listed, but they're non-speakers.
Oh. Is that acceptable?
So that you don't have the names?
Not with the ones just listing the phone numbers, no, I do not.
So you have 25 cards with just a phone number and no name?
No, I have 3 cards with phone numbers only, and then I have 25 cards here
With names?
with names.
Can you read the names, please?
Neil Murrell, Judy Thiel, Madeline Palmer, Patricia DeSmit, Mary Mueller,
Just, yeah, thank you.
David Mueller, Nancy Diggins, Fred Schultz, Roger Griffin, Marianne Abrahamson, C. Klassman, Harriet Finkelman, Sandra Griffin, Dale Schmith, Steve Thomas Jr., Charles Holly, Joyce Gerke, Glenn Ford, Frank Parkent, Gary McGuire, Jim Schmick, Tom Murphy, Kenneth Cradle, Mary Lee Johnson,
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, then we're up to Christopher Young.
He has pulled his card to speak, so then the next speakers would be Phyllis Kern, followed by Sherman Abrahamson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council Member Phyllis Kern. I used to live over that area, so I'm very, very familiar with that gate, and I've seen the tragedies that potentially can happen. First of all, we're the only town in the United States that has a major entrance to an industrial park with a locked gate. Keep that in mind. So when Donald Trump was here in March and he said he wants to make things better, I think we should look at ourselves and open it up. If you GPS, U-Haul, or any of the businesses back there, the semis, trailers, pickups, you ended up at that gate. So that's the tragedy right here. It's a safety issue. I've seen trucks back out of there. I've seen truck semis that, you got to get turned around, get back out onto Shea and turn around. We met 17 years ago with the Chamber of Commerce, and all 19 owners said that they wanted to have the gate open. No one listened to us at that time also. We had such a short period of time. I would have liked to have a lot more people from the industrial park here, but we just, it was too short a time to get everybody here. But if we had some extra time, I know we can get the owners here because they're all very favorable of it when I spoke to them today. To have people go to the back of Target parking lot and to get over to Laser Drive, or to go past technology to a an alleyway to do business in Fountain Hills doesn't make any sense, and someone's going to get hurt. When you leave that alleyway, and I'm going to say south, to make a left turn, you have a blind spot there that someone's going to get hurt here, and the town's going to be liable eventually. Now, if you look at the map up there, where Technology Drive is, there's like 4 homeowners that are actually affected by it. The rest of Mirage Cove there, and I don't know, I'm sure we got people from Fire Rock condos here also, which have no bearing on it whatsoever. So I don't know how to understand the interest there. When we ran a survey here about 2 years ago on internet, we were at 88% wanted the gate open. So we haven't had much cooperation from our local newspaper. They pretty well have stayed away from this. So I would love to see a vote tonight. At least do anything. Do it for a 6-month period of time to open it. The gate has been open before when we were missing a part that we couldn't get. It stayed open for 6 months. No one never knew the difference. They were shocked when they locked it back up again. So I think we need to improve our status. You saw our report tonight on our economy, and you know how the Target Center there is suffering. And it all has to be when you bring investors and people to town and they see a major gate locked to an industrial park, it just gives you that bad image. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Next.
Sherman Abramson, George Smith.
Good evening, Mayor Kavanaugh. I am Sherman Abrahamson. I'm a resident of Fountain Hills and a resident of Mirage Cove. Gentlemen of the council, Bev, Nice to be here. Thank you. When we found that this was on the agenda tonight, I mentioned to some people, both in our complex and over at the Fire Rock Casitas, and the response I got, and I'm going to paraphrase this, was, "Oh no, not again." This has been brought before a number of times. We've been here about, 8+ years, and when we moved in, we inquired about the gate, and we were told, I can't remember exactly who, because it wasn't a major issue at the time, but we were told that gate is permanent. The town has approved a permanent gate there. We accepted that. My driveway is 75 steps from the gate. We hear and see vehicles trying to get in there periodically, and they can't, and they turn around and go back. Some of them go to the alley, as you described. That's a pretty fancy alley. I think of alleys when I was growing up, and they're paved and they're rutted. This isn't an alley. This is a back way. Be that as it may. We have seen vehicles try and make turns because of the way the street is laid out. There's not enough room there for a large truck to make that turn. Now, everyone says, oh, they can back up and swing around. Well, yes, they can do that. But the real access to this area is the stoplight intersection at Shea and Technology Drive. And that's where the traffic is geared to come into and to leave. And there's no reason to see that changed. That was created for this purpose, and this purpose has been achieved. I'm here just because I want to keep our area being peaceful and being quiet and being non-heavily trafficked. And if we see that gate open, I'm satisfied that we'll see a significant increase in the traffic. There's no need for it. The few people who have said that they feel that is essential, I must say they're mistaken. The gate that we have there, while I've heard that it's the only gate in the world like that, I suspect that there may be some factual question on that. But be that as it may, the gate's been there since I've been here, and I see no reason for it to change, and I'm asking for you to keep that status quo. Thank you very much.
I did ask you not to clap.
George Smith.
We would
followed by-
appreciate it. We don't allow it for anybody, okay? Thank you.
Followed by Frank Finkelman. George Smith, Frank Finkelman.
Good evening. My name is George Smith, and I live in Fountain Hills and have for about the last 7 years. Am I supposed to be speaking to any one person?
Just into the mic.
Okay.
Into the mic is good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I really can't add to what's already been said in our favor for the people that live in Mirage Cove, but I will tell you what I have done on my own in the last 3 days, and that is I have talked with 3 different business people, business owners, with regard to what that gate has done to their business, and they have all said that really it doesn't affect their business at all. People can get to their businesses very easily without going on that particular part of the drive. And one of the members that I spoke with said that he felt he spoke for most of the businesses in there. The other thing I did is I went to the fire department, which is you have their fire department there on Saguaro, and I realized that they won't be there for much longer, perhaps. But I asked them what they felt about the gate. And they said, well, it's nothing that has hindered us in the past from responding to a fire or help needed somewhere. And they thought that it just wasn't, a problem for them. So, and I could add a lot to what has already been said, but I would just like to say that I totally agree with what the previous speakers that have been in favor of keeping the gate there would be in our best interest for sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Frank Finkelman, followed by Dan Diggins.
Okay, good evening. My name is Frank Finkelman. I live at Mirage Cove. I've been living there for 20 years, so I'm very familiar with what's going on here. I've been here a couple of times before to speak about this. So I'll just keep it brief and read a short statement that I have. A lot of it has already been stated, but since I wrote it, I'll read it. Why is the gate there? The gate is there because the town council, the Target Center developers, and the residents in the area wanted it there. At the time, it was Fire Rock Estates, Mirage Cove, and the Fire Brick or Fire Rock condos. When the laser drive connection at Saguaro was allowed to be removed, and that was part of the Target construction, it pushed traffic, including commercial traffic, down to Technology Drive. This meant that commercial traffic and all of the accompanying noise and pollution would be in a residential area. Additionally, the intersection at Saguaro and Technology was not really built to handle truck traffic. Trucks cannot safely navigate at that intersection. They would be turning into head-on, facing the oncoming traffic. That is why Technology at Shea Boulevard was constructed, to provide a back entrance for truck traffic to get into the Target Center. So they did accommodate for truck traffic, and that's where they wanted the truck traffic to come from, not from our area. No town council since the inception of this gate has seen a need to remove the gate. On the contrary, it felt it was more important not to renege on promises and commitments that were made. It was a question of trust. What this council says should be all true for other councils. By the way, the situation has gotten a lot worse. Since the inception of the gate, there are 4 new truck-related businesses on Technology. That would be U-Haul, Desert Dog, the warehouse storage, and RV and boat storage, which is down at the end of Technology, including, and that does not, Vans was there at the time. Businesses in the area are not approved for businesses in the area that are not approved for trucks require special use permits. Residents have a right to be heard on whether or not they should be granted. We did not and will not oppose these permits if the gates are closed. Stealing a line from Las Vegas, what happens on the other side of the gate should stay on the other side of the gate. Thank you.
Dan Diggins, and the last speaker will be Carl Iverson.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Dan Diggins. I'm the current president of Mirage Cove HOA. Sorry? My name is Dan Diggins. I live at Mirage Cove. In fact, our home is directly across from the gate. And as alluded to, I'm one of the 4 or 6, I think there's 6 homes that are affected by traffic coming directly at us. In fact, when we purchased our residence, my wife and I, we were told by our realtors that in fact that gate was a permanent gate. The town has committed itself to keeping that gate closed. That was one of the considerations in us buying, and that's why we did. And there was good reason to tell us about the gate. And I found that out last year when it was open temporarily and for maintenance. And in the evening, I noticed that there were a number of different vehicles that came towards me from Technology with their lights shining in my kitchen windows, and the other homes were also being shined upon. So that is a real problem if that happens. I don't know how you can control it. You can't, unless you have people turn off their lights at night, and that's not acceptable. I was impressed with the council's commitment to maintain the gate and, first of all, to install the gate when the plat was approved with stipulation number 25 as was originally stated. Further commitment to keeping that gate closed can be found at the Business Park Access Sign Plan, which was dated June 20, 2002, which was sent to each of you in a letter, I believe, from me. If not, it's a record here. And that it tells what sort of signs are to be placed there. One sign, it says, not a through street. Another sign, dead end. Another sign, it was to be placed saying a future emergency access gate. And the most important sign, I think, it says, use Shea and technology for local businesses. That's what the town said, that's what the town meant, and that was a commitment from the town. And ever since the issues come up, the town has honored the commitment. There's been comment made that part of the problem arises because people are using the back access of Target for a through street. That's a private concern, not a public concern. If Target wants to do something about that, they certainly can enforce that themselves. As far as what the people want, the Fountain Hills Times last year took a poll, a survey, as to whether or not the gate should be opened. I'm sorry, I think it was in August of 2015. And 27% of those who opted to participate in the poll said they would like to have the gate open. 73% said, no, we don't want the gate open. I think that's important because we heard that people ought to speak. Well, the people have spoke, and that is what they have said so far. As mentioned, it seems like every 2 years the issue comes up about the gate. And each and every time that issue has come up, the council has honored their prior commitment to the citizens and especially to the residents around the intersection of Technology and Sororo. We ask that the council, again, honor its commitment to the people and see no reason for opening it. As president of the HOA, I did pass around a petition asking people to, if they opposed opening the gate, to sign the petition, which I will give to the clerk and she can pass it on. But again, it's a simple thing. We want the council to honor its commitment to the citizens. That's all we're asking. And that is to keep the gate closed and open only for emergency. Thank you.
Mayor, could I request the speaker to read the dialogue on the petition? I have no idea what you're petitioning.
This petition from the members and residents of the Mirage Cove Condominium Association is in support of keeping the gate at Technology Drive and Sororo Boulevard closed as per the commitment made by the town of Fountain Hills at the time of the creation of the gate. It's signed by all but 2 residents whom we couldn't get to in the short.
And how many residents are in your?
There are 26 condominiums, husband and wife. I don't know the exact number.
Thank you.
Are we free to ask questions at this point to the speakers?
Absolutely. Councilman?
Thank you for speaking, and I understand your concern. And as the president of the HOA and living across the street, I understand where you're coming from. I looked at the records of Mirage Crossing. It appeared to me that about half of the property owners there are part-time residents. Would you say that is accurate or not?
I'm not going to say it's accurate because I don't know.
Okay.
I just don't know. There are a number, I'm one. That
You're
comes-
part-time?
Yes, I am. But there are a number of full-time residents also, obviously. And I don't know that breakdown. I wish I did.
I just found that information from, just for the record, from maricopa.gov and the actual deeds and when people bought the homes and how the whole transactions historically have went.
Okay, let
Thank
me
you.
let Mr. Diggins sit down. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And let's just hear from our last speaker.
Here, the last speaker is Carl Iverson.
And then we'll open it up to council.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor Kavanaugh, honorable council members, and honorable fellow residents of Fountain Hills. My name is Carl Iverson. I've lived in Fountain Hills over 20 years. I'm a property owner in this area. I'm familiar with the intersection. I consider the intersection a non-intersection. It's not designed for truck traffic. It's not designed for heavy traffic. It's not designed for any traffic. That intersection was poorly designed from the original concept when it was put in. And after the intersection was put into place and actually was used and the trucks started using it, then that was when the residents of the area decided that they should take matters into their hands, and they did. And at that time, the gate went into place. And when the gate went into place, there was no complaint. There has been, on occasion, this council has heard complaints that they'd like to have the gate removed. But as we've heard here tonight, we've learned that the business impact is negligible on those businesses that are associated with that area. But something that is very important that you should take into consideration, this gate sits at the exact location which you could call it an embarkation between residential and business. And the business is actually quite some distance from where this gate is actually located. There's a couple of businesses close by, but not very many. But the residential area is very close to this gate. And that's the consideration, because Fountain Hills is an upscale community, and peace and quiet is one of our highest priorities. It's not designed to have big semi-trucks jacking back and forth to get through an intersection that is not handy to them in the first place. So those citizens' complaints that we have had have been in the minority, have been very small. There's really been no major complaint in the last 20 years that I've been here. It's not designed for truck traffic. It's not a good design for any kind of traffic, and it was poorly designed when it was put in place in the first place. The industrial park is not impacted by it, but the residential area is greatly impacted. So I urge our council members to take those considerations into account, and I thank you for your time, and it's my pleasure. Good night.
Okay, thank you, Carl. That's it? Okay, open it up to council. Council questions, comments? Who wants to go first? Councilman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I cannot support the call to take the gate down. I have to concur that the councils in the past have withheld the integrity and the honesty that the vote was called, and they platted the gate on the plat, and it was signed, and it's record, and my integrity just will not allow me to go backwards on what a council has done that happened 17 years ago. So I would like not to see this move forward.
Okay. Any other comments at this time? Councilman? I've got a question, just something that came to mind while I was listening for Andrew. if you wouldn't mind. Is there any kind of liability that the town has if the gate is closed and let's say a truck goes through there and ends up having an accident trying to turn or whatever, because just for the simple fact that GPS, we're told, sends everybody there?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, it's always impossible to guess on what potential liability is out there with any kind of thing that the town does. The standard to which the town is held with all things that you do is whether or not it was reasonable under the circumstances to do what you did. You know, was it reasonable in the circumstances to close the street with a gate? Did that have a sufficient purpose? Was it supported by the same kind of standards that you would expect to apply to everything else that you do? So without rendering a legal opinion in public, which I never like to do anyway.
But a legal guess.
That gives us a nice roadmap for someone else to sue us later on. Generally, it is just a standard of care is a reasonable standard applied to everything you do. If it rises to a level of gross negligence, then liability can be attached to the town, but there's no way to know in this instance.
All right, just something. And just, do we have any idea, just this thing about this GPS really bothers me because I use my GPS all the time to get everywhere. Do we have any idea how many trucks actually end up on that street due to the GPS and then have to either manage to turn around or find another way, and if they don't want to turn around, then they use the target or they use the alley? Maybe Grady, do we have any idea to that?
Oh, we do not. And this town has actually a couple different problems with GPS. I think the other one, a lot of people are guided instead of going down to El Lago to get to the town center. They go down, I believe it's El Segundo, or there's another street. Drives, it diverts cars to go through neighborhood rather than through, major collectors. And I don't know how that could be changed. And
Yeah.
I believe there's a couple major mapping companies that license their maps to all the GPS companies. And so we could certainly look into what would be involved in making these changes.
Councilman Magazine.
Like my colleague, Councilman Brown, there's a principle that's very important to me, and that is keeping faith with our citizens. Right now, the state legislature is very close to passing laws that would make it almost impossible for citizens to petition, to sign referenda, to get issues onto a ballot. In my view, it's a pernicious way around state law. An action by council that was initiated by the citizens that would overturn the situation with the gate is, to me, a usurpation of the trust we put, that the citizens put in us as a council. That's a very slippery slope. If we do it now, what other issues might come up that have been initiated by the citizens that a council now decides, well, maybe we ought to rethink it? I mean, I can think of situations where that might be relevant and might be necessary. But overall, that's a pretty slippery slope. The citizens put their faith in the council, in their elected officials, to make decisions based in their best interest. In this case, it's the peace and safety of their neighborhood. And so I could not vote to open up the gate for those reasons.
Councilman Tolis?
Well, I just want to make a correlation between Councilman Allen Magazine and what you just said in regards to keeping the faith and not now moving forward with something that the people has spoken and they've said they don't want. And I think of a primary property tax in this town. And I think of the fact that the voters of this community have voted that down multiple times. And are we now going to be, in the future, seeing you and maybe some other council members here that feel that the integrity of the vote and our position as council members, that we're going to listen to the previous council and how they handled it. That was voted down before, but are we going to vote to put it back to the people again? There's these discussions that come up. I'm just learning quite a bit more than what I did before I came up here tonight, and right now I'm not sure which way I'm going to go, but I think that the Mirage Crossing, the Mirage HOA, and all of the residents that are here have the most at risk in regards to their properties, in regards to the traffic. I was kind of under the understanding that with this signage that we would have, that we would not put not allow commercial trucks to go down that road and only allow cars to go down that road, that it would be advantageous to the homeowners in that area. And when I went over there and I talked to the businesses, I talked to Al at Desert Dog. I don't know if that's one of the members or businesses that one of the gentlemen that came up spoke to. He was absolutely in favor of opening this gate. He felt this would be great. His business is predominantly cars. I spoke to Mark, who has a company on the next street, which is an access street. And then I think to myself, as we're speaking here tonight, well, should we be installing a gate on that street? Because I think that most people, at least from the businesses I spoke to, that's the way that they route people. They route people to the next street. So are we in a position that we should put a gate there too? This isn't an easy answer. This isn't an easy decision. I'd like to continue to hear from the rest of the council. But I did do research on the HOA, and those that spoke tonight that do have that direct traffic and the lights, I can appreciate where you're coming from. So that's all I have for the moment.
Councilman Yates?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Likewise, very empathetic. When I first moved here, before we had the contract with Republic Services, everybody had their own contract, and I'm all for freedom of choice, pick your own vendor. My son was 3 years old at the time. Having moved here from the Midwest, he played outside, but every day, multiple times, we had multiple trucks every day, so I was obviously concerned. I was all for getting a single vendor to do this, even though there were quite a few folks who were against us. You're taking away my right to choose, et cetera. Strictly speaking, from an economic development standpoint, I'm a commercial real estate developer. Almost like when you buy a home, you ask about the neighborhood, you ask about the schools, you kind of go down your checklist. In commercial real estate, we asked about the demographics. Tell me, is there going to be enough to support whatever it is I'm going to do? But connectivity is probably number 2 more often than not, but definitely in the top 3. Connectivity is probably the most important in economic development. There's not an economic development plan out there that doesn't include some sort of connectivity plan. How are people going to get in and out? I've had this conversation quite a bit over the last, I was on planning and zoning when it came up there. And the reason it keeps coming up is because it's not resolved. It doesn't mean that, okay, it's been done and a council passed it. There was a council in the past who approved the Fry Center, saying we want it low to the ground backwards so no one can see it. And that one's been taken over by several banks. It's been a white elephant since the development. There was a citizen group that said, okay, we want wayfinding signs, but we want them brown on brown, low to the ground so nobody can see them. And now that's been another issue. Had we followed a citizens group that said we don't want a hotel to play music after 10 o'clock during a wedding on a Friday or Saturday night, we wouldn't be entertaining a international chain, I should say, to do a development project. So I'm with you that it's all about the citizens, but likewise, we all took oaths to do what's best for all the citizenry. So my 2 cents from what I'm hearing so far is connectivity is a big deal. The noise issue, I think the plan that we're talking about is going to lower that because we're going to have no commercial traffic. It's only going to be residential and customer use. So that's going to lower that. And right now, there's commercial all over there. I hear what you're saying. that, oh, I want it quiet, but when you're right next to a fire station right now, and the fire station's been there for the last, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years, to say that, oh, it's a quiet neighborhood, I feel someone's being disingenuous to me when a fire truck goes up. Please, ma'am, I appreciate that. All I'm sharing with you is there's more to look at this than well, there's a few of us, and that's the way we wanted it. There's been several cases throughout town where the whole shopping center was put to referendum. There was a big group. And had we not had Target, that's our biggest tax collector right now, probably one of our biggest economic engines. So I just think there's multiple layers to look at this, but the fact that it keeps coming up tells me that it's not resolved. Thanks, Mark.
Let me just see if Councilman DePorter, do you have any comments or questions?
Sure, Mayor, thank you. My thoughts are, I'm somewhere in between the sides that I have heard this evening from my fellow council members. You think back to my comments at the retreat, trust in what the council is doing is, as this needs to be at the forefront as we look at our revenue situation and ways to find it, and having the citizens trust us to do the best thing for the community. With that being said, when I said somewhere in between, what I mean is, I heard that there was a trial period before. I don't know what sort of metrics or what was used to study during that trial period to decide if it was good or bad. What kind of feedback period? Was there a traffic counter? Personally, instead of just opening it, voting to open it tonight, I personally would rather see another trial period, which I'm sure is not going to make very many people in the room happy, but a trial period with actual milestones and put the traffic counter out there, find out see if there's a way to monitor it in a way so that we can get actual data points to make a decision instead of a sometimes emotional decision. So I don't think I could support voting to open it tonight without the caveat that it would be open for a trial period of time and then we would discuss it again.
Okay. Councilman Tolis?
Can I ask the HOA president to come back up? And also, unless I have my notes wrong, and I apologize, I do, but Mr. Abrahamson, Unit 102? Are you both neighbors? Are you neighbors? Are you right in front there, like that right there?
Mr. Abrahamson, yes, he lives 2 or 3, 2 doors down from me.
So you're really, those are the properties, when I just walked that area the other day, you're right there, and you're going to be more directly affected.
In the line of fire is 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, which is me, and my next door neighbor.
Are most of those people, and I hope you know this, but I don't expect you, maybe you don't, because...
I think I do.
You do, okay.
Permanent resident?
Are they all second homeowners like you?
No. 101 is a permanent resident. 102 is a permanent resident. 103 is a permanent resident. 104 is here part-time. 105 is me part-time. 106 next to me is full-time.
Now, that's a rental, according to Maricopa County.
It is.
Holly.
She's renting it. She rents it from her brother.
Okay.
Yes.
As we talk here, and as we're talking about this temporary, I'm thinking, I wonder whether it would be acceptable to have it open from May to September, when it's a period of time when people are leaving the community, and maybe we can test it. I don't know if that would be something that would be acceptable to your neighborhood?
We've not put that to a vote. When we've met, we were unanimous in not having the gate open at all. Madeline, we just don't want the gate open. There's still going to be noise, and as I said, those people, those homes that are particularly affected right in front of the gate, they're always going to be affected.
Do you know, Madam Mayor, do you know what the zoning is of that giant parcel of land across the street from the fire department?
I don't.
Madam Mayor, it's part of that whole owners association. It's commercial. It's got the same overlying. I pulled that up on the GIS earlier today. It's the same zoning that Desert Dog has, or
I think it's the painter.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question again, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are we going to be in a situation when someone is looking to develop that land across the street from your property, that we're going to have your homeowners association come back up here and asking us to reject a permit or a building permit for a commercial property that may have proper zoning, proper usage? Is that something that would be an issue to your association?
Can't answer that because we don't know what would be going in there. If you're going to put a Ferris wheel in there and a merry-go-round, that might be objectionable. Other businesses may not be. And sort of like, I'm an attorney also, like Mr. McGuire is, and I can't predict what's going to happen or who's going to object to what. But I know right now that nobody wants it open 24/7.
Councilman, all right. Is there a question for Mr. Diggins?
No,
Okay,
thank you,
sit
sir.
down.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Yates.
Along the same lines, and I broached this topic, anecdotally, we've heard
Please have order. If you want to, everyone's spoken already from the public.
typically when a development comes in, we do traffic studies and parking studies and all these third-party studies. And I went to find out that when Target came in this area, it was citizen-driven, but it wasn't based on any kind of metrics. Along those lines, I'm kind of thinking that's probably what we need, because I asked Grady today, and I looked in all the packet, and it was, for lack of a better word, anecdotal, that people felt that they wanted it closed. And although I appreciate that, I honestly do, and if the general population feels anything, we need to look at that. But we have no metrics to look at. I don't know if traffic's going to increase with it open or decrease. And, some business owners say it hadn't affected them at all, and other folks are saying their customers constantly complain. One individual said he sees trucks trying to go up there all the time, so that tells me there's a need. So my suggestion is, along the same lines, is maybe we do a 6-month or some interval period with the traffic, just like we test for the fair to see what the traffic rates are. Obviously, we can't put it on technology because right now there's 0, so 3 cars a day might be too many. But if you put it on Saguaro just to see how it's increased, some sort of cyclical system, so we have some metrics to look at, I think that's probably the best way. Because this does keep coming up, and that's part of the reason why it does. If we had some metrics that said, yes, traffic increased too much on that for a residential for that kind of size, then it's objective. Right now, we're being subjective. We're saying, I feel this way, I feel that way, and unfortunately, that's not enough to make a solid decision. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, any other comments? Councilman Leger?
Yes, Mayor, if I may. I'm hearing a lot of apples to oranges comparisons this evening. I've lived in the area for 20 years. Oh, and by the way, I had my wife GPS. I guess it depends what app you had. MapQuested U-Haul, because that seems to be the contentious piece. And then we Google mapped it. And basically, I live south about a half a mile from U-Haul. And when we MapQuested it and GPSed it on MapQuest and Google, it took us down Saguaro to Shea Boulevard, up to Technology, and in the main entrance. So I understand that not all apps are equal, but every app that I used today did not bring me to the gate. As a matter of fact, it brought me by the gate. And I GPSed it from the north side as well, and it was the same token. So, that's neither here nor there. That's just trivia, but I was just curious to GPS it. When I say apples and oranges, I've lived in that area for 22 years, so I think I understand the traffic patterns. I think I understand the environment. And when I say apples to oranges, let's just go back historically. Unfortunately, we were unable to see Laser Drive. The industrial park was there. Laser Drive was the entryway to the industrial park. Once Laser Drive was abandoned, that became the root cause for a different and a new solution. Once Laser Drive was abandoned, that pushed commercial traffic into the neighborhood. Now, what I found very impressive about the whole process with the Four Peaks Plaza was the fact that it was a collaboration between council and the neighbors. And that council, once the decision was to abandon Laser Drive, felt comfortable, if you may, designing a new main entrance. So when I hear that we're the only industrial park in the country whose entrance is blocked down, that's a little disingenuous. By design, if you look at the plat, if you were there historically, if you listen to the negotiations, frankly, yes, the negotiations between the council at that time and the neighbors. Mirage Cove is like one of very few folks in that area that were affected. There were 300 people that were voting against that process. So this was above the board negotiation between council and, if you may, the residents. That was a very positive process. So the goal is not the frequency of traffic and traffic counts, it's the type of traffic. And if that gate wasn't there, you would have large commercial trucks coming in and out of Target, coming in that direction. So what we have now is a gateway to the industrial park, a gateway, and it's on Shea and Technology. There's a nice sign up there that says Fire Rock Industrial Center, pointing that way. If for some reason your GPS brings you to the gate has very clear sign on it that says, go this way, go that way. The misnomer about that alley, it's not an alley. It's a street comparable to the streets size that are in that particular development. It is not a safety hazard unless you speed down that road. There are stop signs at both ends. There are turning radiuses on both ends that are 5 feet larger than the road itself. So the bottom line here is we're talking about traffic counts. As I stated, it's not a matter of traffic, it's a matter of the type of traffic. And when the council and the residents engaged in these conversations years ago that I witnessed, signs were not considered as a compromise. As a matter of fact, there was discussion, and I wish it would have happened, of actually cul-de-sacing that area to solve the issue to basically solve the issue. That wasn't done. So traffic counts, signs, I don't know. Just in closing, I could go on regarding the history and what I've heard here this evening. There is no need. There is no need to open that gate. There is little evidence, if any evidence at all, that the profitability of any business back there is suffering if we want to talk about economic development. What we're talking about here is disrupting over 50 residents every 2 years because we have 1 or 2 people in this town on a crusade to open that gate. And I can respect that, and I respect the person's passion in dealing with this every couple of years. That is not fair, I think, to our residents. I think it's paramount to uphold our previous negotiated commitment. And I say negotiated because it was not an afterthought with the residents in this area, particularly the residents in Mirage Cove. We don't have people here from Fire Rock or any place else that are opposed to this evening because it came down so quickly. I think that there's been a previous commitment. As a council person, I think we need to demonstrate integrity and continue to build trust, particularly in this part of the town. This, to me, is the larger issue. It's not about traffic. It's about a commitment that was made to these residents. They bought their property based on that commitment. If people that have lived there 20 years, every 2 years their life is disrupted, and You know, it's time for the town to put this issue to bed. I don't think we should be kicking it down the road. I think we need to put it to bed and provide some peace and comfort to these folks in this particular area. My position is to keep the gate in place and keep the gate closed. Thank you.
Okay, so we've pretty much heard from the council and the public, and so anybody interested in making a motion? Councilman Yates?
Madam Mayor, I move to count cars on Saguaro and Technology for 45 days, and then leave the gate open for the same 45 days thereafter, and then report back. In the meantime, if we could get a temporary sign to say no commercial traffic, or if we want to make it a true study, whatever it is, as long as it's consistent. But right now, I don't feel like I have enough to judge one way or the other.
Okay, I have Councilman DePorter. Are you still with us?
I am, Mayor.
Okay.
I would second that with the amendment that that the residents of Mirage Cove and those that are affected have some input in what metrics we look at for that 45-day period.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah, thanks, Nick.
All right, so I have a motion and a second, and let me call for a roll call vote on that.
Councilmember Yates?
Aye.
Councilmember Leger?
Nay.
Councilmember Brown?
Nay.
Vice Mayor DePorter?
Aye.
Councilmember Tolis?
Aye.
Councilmember Magazine?
Nay.
And Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Mayor 4-3.
All right, thanks, everyone, and Councilman DePorter, I know you might have to go. You're waiting for your plane. We just have our last discussion with possible direction to staff related to any item included in the League of Arizona Cities and Towns Weekly Legislative Bulletin or relating to any action proposed or pending before the state legislature. I guess HB 2365 was brought up, Grady?
Yes, Mayor and Council, staff had concerns regarding 2365. It has to do with wireless facilities, co-location, and rights-of-way. This bill would allow wireless carriers such as Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Sprint to install and operate and maintain small cell equipment in city and towns rights-of-way. This bill initially was, the League took an active interest and was concerned about this. Now they've taken a position of neutrality as they are trying to work with the industry. And the League is trying to work with industry to allow cities and towns to retain police and land use powers over the rights-of-way in regard to small cell deployment, and also to adjust the application processes and review timeframes to ensure city and town staff are able to take action on applications appropriately. And then there's some other actions relating to insurance and indemnification provisions to guarantee cities and towns are held harmless. Just to let you know, this did pass the House and was transmitted to the Senate. So, you know, these bills are moving very quickly. On the 23rd, which was just a week ago, this was passed. So it's in the Senate, and the Senate will be considering this bill at this point.
And I'll just add that after we spoke, I made some phone calls to see what was actually going on. And I know that there's a lot of changes coming, that no one is satisfied with this.
And the big deal, reason why this is even considered right now, is the industry is trying to gear up for the next change, which is 5G. Right now, all the carriers are providing 4G service, but there's a lot of demands for increasing the data speed significantly. So.
And while I know that this is a big grab, I know that what we discussed with the League, Fountain Hills is really a good negotiator when it comes to our Verizon and all of those service carriers. So if they need to put a tower someplace, it's mostly because we don't have enough coverage like everywhere else. And we negotiate it, and they put it into either a saguaro, or they try and camouflage it somehow. But there are some cities that make it very difficult. Fountain Hills was not mentioned as a difficult town to work with. So that's one of the reasons why they're trying to make these changes, though they're very drastic, and none of us are in favor of it, so I don't think it's going to happen. They might get a cap on the fees, though. Okay? Anything else anyone needs to bring up? I think right now everything is just kind of in flux. Grady?
I just have one. I've spoken to a number of you individually about this as I've bumped into you in the offices. There's one called, it's House Bill 2495. This is short title, Consolidated Election Dates, Tax Authorization. This bill requires an election for the approval or authorization of assessing TPT, which is sales tax, by a city or town to be held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November in even-numbered years. Basically, if the town council were to consider any kind of adjustments in sales tax, either up or down, it would require a vote of the voters. And, in light of the issues that we are having with our revenues, this is really a big an issue with the state legislature, getting involved in local affairs. So, just to tell you where this is right now, the House Bill 2495 passed the House on the 21st. It was transmitted to the Senate on the 22nd. So the League has taken a position of oppose on this, as well as most cities as well. So this might be one the council may want to take a position on.
Okay. Does anybody want to?
Absolutely.
Yes? Okay, I guess. And anyone doesn't want to, then we have direction to staff to do so. Everybody okay with that? Okay? No? Seemed like everybody was nodding their head. I can read that. Anything else? Grady?
That's the only one that was a major concern to me.
Okay. All right, so we have direction to staff, and the next thing is just some activities. Now, thank you, Councilman Tolis. You already congratulated the boys' basketball team, so I don't have to do that, but
Mayor,
we will.
Mayor, if I may, just refresh my memory. Did we push back on the TPT last time? Are we writing any type of objection to the?
We're still, yes.
No.
Yeah.
So we're in the process of doing that.
Yeah, and we're working very hard
Yeah.
to, as speaking to Senator Kavanaugh, he said if it still comes out the way it is, that it's going to be a $150 million fiscal hit to the general fund of the state. It is never going to go through.
Yeah.
And they are trying to prove right now, the people that have put this bill up, that it's not going to be a hit to anybody. It's going to be revenue neutral, but they haven't been able to prove that with the figures.
Yeah, I've sat on the league calls every Monday, and it seems every time that's brought back, it's more and more convoluted. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Like,
Yeah.
the latest thing was creating, we would take our own sales tax revenue and put it in someone else's pot, and then it would possibly be distributed back to us.
Right.
At the,
Possibly.
at the cost of paying
If
DOR.
you are worthy
to-
enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Something like that.
And if it's tied to our population, then we're in trouble.
Okay, so let me do this quickly so we can get out of here. I want to tell you about my Mayor's Youth Council. We had an awesome trip to the state capitol. Senator Kavanaugh gave us a behind-the-scenes tour. Our two state representatives, Jay Lawrence and Michelle Ugenti-Rita, came by to greet the students. And Speaker J.D. Mesnard welcomed the students into his office and spoke to them for a few minutes about his job. It was a very enjoyable learning experience for them. And I want to thank everybody who drove, Grady and Heather and Beata from our staff. We did need drivers every time we go. So did I get everybody? Yeah, okay, thanks. Also, we attended the Boys and Girls Club annual fundraiser. We sat with our McKee branch director, Lauren Stratton, and her team in our branch. Youth of the Year, Xavier Lopez. Unfortunately, he didn't win, but his family was there. And they raised a lot of money that night that will fund all, now there's 8 branches to the Boys and Girls Club of Scottsdale. And I'll just tell you, the most touching part of the entire evening is when the the man that owns, I think his name is Parsons. He's the GoDaddy gentleman who owns the Harley Davidson, that big monstrous Harley Davidson. See, only one of the 8 kids could win, and they just announced that he was going to give $20,000 to each of the 8 to use for their college. So, I mean, I think half the room was just crying and clapping. It was just such a marvelous thing. So they were all great winners that night, and just very generous. We also attended the Polish Festival. As you know, Zamość is our newest sister city. We got to meet with Frank Spula, the new president of the Polish National Committee, Consul Bogomil Horsham and his wife Elizabeth, both Fountain Hills residents, also attended and were volunteers at the event. And it's great to go to this event because they always announce Fountain Hills as their sister city, and they always invite everyone to come and visit us. I want to mention the Great Fair. CEO Scott Soldat Valenzuela said it was a big success this weekend. But I want to also thank all the people that volunteer their time to help out the many charity and the booths and the veterans booths, because that means a lot to them. It's a lot of income that they make over that one event, and most of that money all stays here in Fountain Hills. This morning, actually the entire morning, I attended the opening of the 5-artist Taiwan art exhibit at the state capitol. I represented Fountain Hills at the event, and I've done this many times. We've gotten to know really well the Taiwanese community, and just by me being there, they've gotten to know Fountain Hills, and I know many of them have come to visit us, because I always tell them about our fountain, and they have to come see the fountain. Last and most important, the food bank is really in dire need, and the town has stepped up once again to help them out. We have barrels in the community center here in Town Hall and in the library, and we're asking everyone and anyone, if you can afford something to drop in that barrel. They really do need the help. I know everyone was very, very generous around the holidays, but now the shelves are virtually empty. So please be as generous as you can. There's a listing on the barrels of peanut butter, and I think it's also in the Times asking people to help. So if you can, we would appreciate that very, very much. And that is all that I have. Does anybody else have anything? Not? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, and all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Any opposed? No.